So the idea here is that we're creating a 3D model, 3D printable model of this thing, of this home depicted here, and the home is kind of looks like that. It's made out of 8 shipping containers, and you see the different views of it. So I've got this all in SketchUp. But the point of this exercise really is for us at Abantech to try to learn about the different 3D tools that exist out there, and their kind of various strengths and weaknesses, and how we could go about and actually do this, do what we're trying to do here, um, to create this 3D model. So, and it's depicted in this presentation. So, what we actually already have is a fully developed SketchUp model, right?
Yeah.
That is something we had put together already, but as part of a different effort. This takes a while to load, and as you can see, it's a very complex model, and everything is there. And I do mean everything is there. And so this is the first tool that we kind of like looked at using. Well, this is actually not something I personally did, but it just goes to show that all the different things that you kind of turn on and off. You kind of group things together. You could. I'm starting to show that you could. All the interior things are starting to get turned off, but let me see. Okay, so now I've turned off the roof. So now you can see what's inside. I turned off the ceiling, so you can see the first floor wall, second floor, etc., etc. So this is really a tool, really more for 3D visualization. I'm going to go over like how I've used this in conjunction with another tool online that is actually maybe something that might be even more appropriate for if this year to use. But I just wanted to show the completeness of the
Okay.
model that currently exists, um, and how this was created as well. How this particular model was created by by someone else, um, but how she went and got and did that. Of course, it is not very easily 3D printable, but for the purposes of what we're doing, we don't really so much care about the 3D printability of it. It just so happens to be that that's what we're doing for this effort, and it's become important for that. Nonetheless, um, obviously you can see that SketchUp's got some fairly good capabilities of how to really representing this. And as you can see, it's fairly robust, kind of um, really detailed stuff. And this is actually what I'm going to show you. How Janine put this together using the plans and elevations, right? I'm going to show you
Yeah.
this at SketchUp first. And again, we're just documenting this to just show like how either easy or how difficult it is to do. Okay, so moving on. How would we go about doing something like that, right? Because I actually created one SketchUp model, one of the ones that you've seen there, um, created one from scratch, and this is the one that I've created, right? Very
Okay.
simple one. This is actually container in our diagrams. This is container, I believe this is container D, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's container D. So, oh no, sorry, container H. That's container H right there, with the stairs going down and stuff. So, so that I did this by starting out and actually adding a plan. Um, there's a plan on the onto the model, um, and I'm going to show you how I did this. Right? Um, Basically created the plan, and then from the plan, I started drawing out the walls. Um,
Got it.
I'm going to show you how to do that, and I'm going to actually do that for the second floor. So you said you've created container D or container C?
Container C.
Okay, so I'm going to go and do container D, and I'm going to show you that process from the beginning. And I'm going to start with SketchUp, but then I'm also going to go into using TinkerCAD, which is what I've used to do the rest of it. The rest of the stuff that SketchUp makes extremely complicated to do, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But for the sake of this exercise, I'm just going to start from completely from scratch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to first take one of our floor plans that actually exists. This is an actual floor plan, right? And so you said you've created container D. Am I correct?
I've created container C.
C. Sorry. Okay. So that means that I'm not going to create this. I'm going to create this guy right here, which is the next most important one, right? And I'm going to at least get started on that. So how do I go about doing that? Well, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. That might be a little bit zoomed in too far. And all I'm going to do is basically I'm just going to take a screenshot of this and just do very high-tech stuff using snipping tool. Snip this out so I could get all of container D in there. And I'm just going to save this. Save that. And now I'm going to go back to SketchUp.
Okay.
And I'm going to import that. Put that in. Container JPEGs. Sorry, it's off screen here. So container JPEGs, and I'm just going to look. Here you go. Container D floor plan. And so I'm going to place this here. Okay. Now, I don't know how large or how small this should be. So first thing I'm going to do, and what I do know, is that those containers are, I'm going to use this tool, by the way, which is called the Move tool. But I'm going to use the fact that I know that these containers are 8 feet wide by 40 feet long, right?
Okay.
So I'm going to take this tool, this is like the square tool, whatever you want to call it. And, hang on, something's blocking the view here. But there's dimensions down here. So I'm going to take this tool, draw, and I'm going to draw 40 feet long by 8 feet wide. I think, comma, 8 feet. And bingo. Not really how I wanted it. I wanted to go the other way, so I'm just going to do it 40. Just because
Okay.
the other ones, the drawing is already somewhat oriented that way. Okay, so now I've got that. I'm going to move the drawing back. Take the move tool. Apparently you always move it on the edge. I want to line the edges up, line the corners up together. And now what we're going to do is we're going to actually rotate this image from this point to that point.
Why are you rotating?
I'm rotating it because it make it a heck of a lot easier to scale, figure out the scale, to draw it later. to so that it's aligned along an axis, a
Okay.
well-known axis, right?
Yeah.
Because if it's not aligned along a well-known axis, then hear that baby bear cranking away in the back there. There you go. Oh, dang it. Do. Okay, try one more time. It's not loading very well for Sketchup. This is actually the pain to do this. but once I get this done, then we'll. Okay, that's a little bit better. So now that I've got that done, now I'm going to actually get this thing to scale to match the scale of that container. So you know it kind of ends there, right?
Yeah.
But the container, that doesn't really end there. So, and then now you'll see why I moved it. So when I do this, I can lock the direction in which it moves. Oops. Maybe not very well. But I can somewhat lock the direction in which it moves. So, you know, I'm just trying to scale it a little bit more. And, you know what, actually, this is more for measurement purposes. The reason I'm doing this is because I know, like, for example, how high doors should be. I know that the doors should be 7 feet wide by, or 70 inches tall, right? And so it's a lot easier for me to make a doorway if they're the same, if they're about the same scale.
Got it.
You know, it's not really something that, you know, you need to worry about too much, but it's just makes it easier for me. Okay, so we're almost there. Orbit around it. And I'm trying to move this a little bit. Okay, that looks about right. Alright, so we're kind of doing somewhat of an estimate here, so it's fine. We could always scale later. So, but actually that kind of looks perfect, actually. Let's see, so, whoops. Oh. So, actually kind of looks, yeah, kind of perfect. Okay, so now we actually don't need this floor anymore. I just use that to you know, illustrate. So now we've got these walls here, right? That we're gonna want to draw, and there's a door there. So that's something to take into account. The fact that there's a door there. I know, kind of like, you know, in my drawings said that, you know, you only need to draw the green parts. So if you only drew the green parts, that's perfectly fine and acceptable. Why to do that? But I just want to show you kind of like what I'm doing.
That's fine.
Why is this showing up?
Is it untitled the picture we had there before?
I think I might have not deleted that. Oh, you know what? I know what it is. I'll delete this guy. I can delete this component. Now, it was because it was drawing against the existing geometry.
Yeah.
It had 4 faces. It had 6 faces, and I drew on one face, and that made the rest of it show up. So anyway, so now I got that wall, right? And I got this wall over here. Seems to be a little bit of a wall there. And I know that this has a wall too. And that doesn't have a wall, but all these edges sure do have walls. So we're just gonna like draw walls there, because even if there are, like I said, don't need to worry about the container walls. We do need to worry about the interior walls, the fact that there are interior walls, right? Because, well, because there are interior walls. But and also just for the sake of, let's say we weren't working with containers here, just to say, to make things a little bit, just, you know, in general, somewhat more, what's going on here, somewhat more, more intuitive for all of us concerned. I'm just going to draw, there you go. I guess I didn't.
Yeah, if they're not connected, then it's going to be a problem, right?
Somewhat, yeah. Let me actually fix that one by, I'm sure there's an easier way, but, actually, yeah. I'm sure there's an easier way to do it than what I'm doing. By the way, look, see, when you delete something, SketchUp uses lines. It has these lines that, it puts geometries between lines, and, yeah, well, that's just how it works. So you can see it did something weird there. I don't know why it did that, but it's kind of a good thing that you saw it, because there's a problem with SketchUp right there. So let me go back a little bit. I think an easy way to fix this might be to just kind of suck it up and draw it, you know, to violate the thing a little bit more, so that it actually pops into the, and yet it still did that. I don't know why it's doing that. So yeah, SketchUp kind of sucks.
Okay, so if any of the shapes overlap, it just tries to fill in the rest.
I don't know. I don't know why it's doing that. I can't tell you for a fact why it's doing that, but
Yeah, I think what it is that when the shapes overlap, it combines them.
So, so, yeah, it's weird like that. But you'll see in a minute, hopefully we'll give it some redeeming quality. Redeem itself a little bit. Oh, crap. Oh, you don't want to do that. I don't know why I can't just delete that whole thing. I'm sure there's a way, but anyway. So I'm going to draw this over here. Be the same as, nope, why isn't it not? Okay. That guy right there, and end. Okay, now I'm going to draw this guy all the way to there, and okay, whatever. So it did something that I didn't want, but who cares? And now you've got these lines that are in between these shapes that, you know, you don't really kind of want them to be there. So, but I will just simply remove the lines that make them separate. And that's the weird thing about SketchUp. It's like, it's both, you know, to me, both good and bad. It's sort of, that's not very intuitive, but, you know, whatever. It is what it is. I do, this doesn't actually have a, so it does have a door, a window. So
Okay.
it should have something there. I'll erase that. And then, so, there you go. From that, now I know these walls are 8 feet 6 inches high. So I'm going to start taking them up. And then I'm going to put 8 foot 6 inches. Enter. Boom. I have an 8 foot 6 inch wall. Now, I also know that I have, and I can kind of see there, that I have a doorway there. Right?
Yeah.
Now I know a door is about, or this, whatever this is, let's just say I did. But I think, yeah, it's 30 inches. Alright, oops. Sorry. 30 by 70. So 30 inches by 70. What did I do? That's how I meant. 30 by 70. So now I've got like what looks like a doorway there. I'm going to extrude this just up to the point where it hits the other. And there. There you go. I've got a doorway. So,
Okay, that's
for
nice.
as much as it sucks, I've gotten to do something that was fairly, you know, I don't know, I'd say kind of pretty cool. You know, you did all that prep work, and then you kind of start to,
It definitely starts to come together.
yeah. So I'm going to do the same thing here. This is about 30 by 70 inches. Enter. Right. Now I'm going to push this shape to the point where I see the other thing. And then that's it. Now I've got that, and I could do the same thing for the windows, and within a matter of, you know, oh shit, what did I do? Oh, I only did part of it. I forgot the rest.
Yeah, that's fine.
I forgot the rest of it. But this is just a demo, so well, actually, kind of like. So the thing that's gonna make this suck, I think, is, or maybe not. Let me see. So again, one more thing you could do, so you can just simply take that and move that wall up here. There you go. Right? And now I'm going to want to make this a little bit longer there. And I'm going to want to build a wall right there. So how do I do that? I just take this other kind of like tool and put it there and there. I believe this will work. I'm not entirely sure, but there you go. Now, I'm showing you all these things, but you must know that for all that I'm doing, I'm already coming very dangerously close to being not manifold.
Yeah.
That means the shapes are not going to be closed anymore. I'm still not there, so the things that I'm doing are still okay. So far. But I'm going to get very close to not being manifold.
And then if it's not a manifold, then you want to be able to 3D print it, right?
The 3D printer wouldn't know what to do. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, the STL file would be invalid. So couple tiny little things. I guess I might as well just do this, right? Because I'm already here. Just fix that. Put that there. Done. And I don't know how long this seems it's taking, but I knew at first it seemed like it was taking a while, but now it seems like it's moving along. Right? Hope you can still do. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just fix this one little thing, this tiny little thing here. Just push this up a little bit forward. And, okay. And the last thing I'm going to do
Okay.
is I'm just going to put a floor on it. Just put a regular old floor, the thing that I actually had a while ago. So I'm just going to draw something that's, what did I say, 8 by 40. There you go. And I'm going to make sure this is not just a plane. So I extrude it to, let me just put it to 1 inch, or 2 inches. Okay. I'm going to move it. Apparently you should always move it along
The endpoints.
the corner. Just, yeah, apparently. Oops. Oh, 1 second. So here's that's the other weird thing about it. It's like a completely, it just became a geometry. It became like I thought that I was moving the vertex.
Yeah.
So, but I'm gonna put this there, where it's an 8-foot wide by 40-foot container. I don't know why it's sort of like that. But that should be. It's not quite. There you go. Okay. So just with that sort of exercise, I've
Mm-hmm.
now I've now I've now uh, created container D, at least
Yeah.
some of it. Now I don't even need to save this, but I can, right? Just saying that. Uh, I do want to show that. So now I've exported it to an STL file, right?
Yep.
Okay, so SketchUp, we've shown like all the things, just what made it good, what made it nice. But look at the SketchUp model that Jing created. Looks fairly okay, except as you can see, so much of it
It's a
is
lot more
not
detailed.
manifold, right?
Yeah.
Now I go to a different tool. This is the second part of the process, and now we will actually use this tool, which is a nice, very simple tool I found called TinkerCAD, and uh, so you want to try to create like um, like use that container and stuff, um, and it would be fine. You could do that, but it would be it'd be a real pain. I'm not sure if it's exported correctly.
And you scale it at 50% or 3%?
I don't know. It's just yeah. So so now you've still got a shape. Oops, that's totally manifold. But you don't want to do stuff to it. You know, for whatever reason. I mean, you want to like create openings, and sure you could do that just like I did with the doors. But as you
Yeah.
get more complex and as you want to put more windows and all this other crazy stuff in, it becomes a little bit more cumbersome to do with SketchUp, and it greatly already increases the likelihood of something not being manifold. Now, this tool, TinkerCAD, that I'm using, um, it's fairly simple. What it does is it just takes the concept of using everything as just shapes. So everything is just a shape, right? Like you can see here in the menu, you've got all these shapes, and you're thinking,
Yeah.
great, so I got a shape, I can put this shape here and this shape there. And I thought that seemed very limiting. Um, and sure, it's hard to do stuff. You can't like draw you can't just draw stuff from a floor plan, or you can't just do all these little things. But there is a lot that you can do with this. So like, let's say, I don't know, I wanted to create like a bed in this bedroom, right? It uses the concept of shapes to allow you to do stuff that, and again, it's always manifold because they're always shapes, always geometries.
Yeah.
So let's say like, oh, okay, yeah, let's do something that's actually kind of somewhat practical in a way. Let's try to create a toilet. So I use this paraboloid shape, right? I'll start that way,
Okay.
and I'll duplicate it. And I've got a second one right there. I'll flip this over, because it's kind of what a toilet is. Negative 180. There you go. Now I've got that. Now, let's just say, just to make it kind of like more realistic or something, um, that's sort of my, well, that's sort of my shape there, right? But, you know, that's not really how a toilet is, because you don't really have that. You know, there's typically something there, like a hole, or, you know, like a drain, or whatever you call it. Kind of.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that shape, take that other shape as well, right? I'm going to extend this shape a little bit, extend that. And the cool concept of what they do with this is that every shape can either be a shape or a hole. And it's actually a pretty powerful concept, because if you think about it that way, like, you could create almost any shape with
A group of shapes.
with grouping both a hole and a shape.
Yeah.
So that's a shape like that, and I could either change its color to orange, or I could make it a hole. And I'll just make it a hole, and now I'll do this, and I'll just click group, and boom. Now I've got a hole,
Is it
right?
still manifold?
And now it's a contiguous shape. So what it just did there was what you call a binary expression, what is called binary operation, right? Which is one where you know, it actually took the two geometries and created it with one. So that obviously did something server side, because that's very expensive, an expensive operation to do client side.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of showing you what else you could do with it. So like I took that, and I couldn't see where that is here. Okay, that's a little too deep, so I don't want to do that. It also allows you to sort of like, you know, do this along an axis of some kind. So just gonna see where it's doing that. Oops, that's not what I meant to select. I'm gonna select that shape. Select these two shapes, group it, bam.
I
And
see.
now
That's
I've kind of got, yeah, something that looks a little bit more like a toilet. You know, I'll take this other shape, etc. Um, you know, and just you know, just you know, putting things together, kind of combining things in ways that are, you know, like that kind of make it make sense, so that like I know the toilet isn't like doesn't always have like something that's that like deep, right? So it usually has some little bit of a flat surface. So I'm just gonna take this cube, move it together like that, right? So it's past the point of the toilet. Turn it into a hole. Those things together. Oops, this wasn't long enough. And the nice thing about this too is they have this tool where it locks you along an axis. So it sort of knows that like you're only able to move along two axes at a time.
Yeah.
So it allows you like the axis that you can't move in, or is not easy to move in. It provides you that cursor. I think it's almost always just the y-axis though, which is a little bit of a limitation. But so now I've got that shape, and then you know I'll just create a shape, another one, the box. I'm not actually making it a hole, but just in order for me to see where I'm going. Just a little bit of a trick that I'm just doing here. Put it together like that, and well, oh, this is my problem. It's got snapping, by the way, too. So the same feature that the original prototype had, our
Okay.
original prototype, we were doing snapping, right? Which is
Yeah.
useful. Which is a useful feature to have, but you know, just wasn't necessarily needed for this. I mean, like especially right now, like so, it obviously hints at the fact that you know we need to be able to turn snapping on and off, and it's a good thing that this tool allows that. So, I guess what I'm sort of trying to say in a long-winded way is that I think that TinkerCAD is a good candidate for an app that we can integrate with potentially. So I'm going to turn that back into red. Now I'm going to group that. Now I've got my toilet tank. And move that up. Scale it down. Press shift to scale along both axes at the same time. That up. And move it up. And just like that, I've created like something of a toilet tank. Well, you know, do that in SketchUp, man, that'll take you a long time.
It's not getting ready.
But yeah, but you know, so like I said, they've all got their strengths and weaknesses, and this is one of the things that this one has. So
Now these are all single manifold, right?
these shapes are all manifold, or at least to the best of my knowledge, they are. Um, I don't see that they aren't. But putting a seat on there for fun. I'm obviously just having fun now. But yeah. But these shapes are manifold. Um, at, at least you'll see them very easily with another app that we all should have called NetFab. Um, and NetFab is an app that well, I'll forget this, but I just want to just join this all together for our sake, so that we were able to. What are you doing? Alright, there you go. Now I got your toilet. So now, how do I see this? Okay, so now I could go and do design, download for 3D printing, and I haven't figured out yet, but it'll always just give me a weird, funky name.
No, they generate the name, huh?
It'll generate the name for you. But NetFab is an app that is a free app that'll actually tell you whether or not the shape is manifold, or whether or not it would have problems with it. So I just exported that, and unless I'm mistaken, I haven't yet seen one that is. See, so there's a problem with it. I don't know why there would be. There's some tiny little problems with it, but for the most part, like look, like whatever. There's like some tiny little problems with it, which can be fixed with like a repair, or should be fixable. I don't really know how to fix these things, but it's supposedly it fixed it. But if it doesn't work with that, sometimes it doesn't. It doesn't always work with that. Okay, but so how do I export this now? Edit. There's some way I'll export part as STL. Smashing. So, so I just wanted to show you, like, NetFab did that, but, I mean, watch, like, for example, like, the other stuff that I would do if I was, like, the other parts that were, that came from the actual, not that one. Yeah, let's do this. So I did some slicing of the model.
Okay.
This is actually not so bad, but as you can see, most of it's green. Let me do one that's another one from what is it called? New test. Container accurate with walls, container G fixtures, bathroom, inner walls, mesh fixed. Let me get the larger one. Sure. This is not the first. Second wall STL. ISPU part only. General containers. There you go. There you go. Everything that's red is bad.
Oh.
That's what Sketchup. And this is like not even the whole house. Like I deleted a lot of things with this. And look at how much of it is bad. Is bad and broken. And
Yeah.
I don't know how to fix. I actually, the automatic repair can't even fix that stuff. It'll try, and it'll try, and it'll try, and I have tried. So it'll fix a little bit of it, and it'll apply it, move old part, blah. It sometimes even ends up breaking more than it fixes. Anyway, so so that's just one, just that little kind of like showed you how I used two different tools to do that. There is one more tool that's interesting, and you can see sort of like what I was doing with the other stuff. Was the tool called Slicer. It's another freeware tool, but like I did an export of the whole house at one point, and it was huge. But ISBU part only. No, run. You see green finish, and I don't even know if it's gonna load. It might not load. Okay, I do want to say it's a 100 MB file.
Oh, wow.
But scale the blah blah blah. So now I've got this huge, and it won't even tell you. This won't tell you whether it's fixed or not. But let's say, for the sake of argument, I don't want to take. I don't want to like do the problem with doing, like, let's say you already had a model in SketchUp, is you might not want to cut out stuff that you've already. I mean, it's harder to. How do I say? God, it takes long even just to rotate. Oops. Rotate around y-axis, so -30, because I guess it wasn't the y-axis, it was the z-axis. It might crash. I probably shouldn't show you this. But the point is, with this tool, you would be able to cut pieces off of it that it just doesn't make sense to cut around that right now. 30. What is
Yeah, it might just be that it's a large file.
Yeah, I mean, it's that, but I was just thinking about, like, the way I'm trying to rotate it because the containers. I was trying to show you how I want to cut out the non-container part.
Yeah.
So there you go. And then I'm gonna scale it down. Percent scale. 10. So anyway, maybe this wasn't a good idea to use this one, but there are other pieces that are a little bit more easier to see. Oh man, I did not mean to scale it. How? I actually tried to scale it down. That's crazy. It's not. But anyway, if that doesn't work, I just want to show you that you could actually go through and this isn't so much part of the exercise anymore, but
Yeah.
I was just trying to show you that, like, if you had like a 3D file that you want to work with, you could start with that, and then you start with a model that already has a lot of the things that you like or need. So like, I don't want to have to like figure out the placement of the windows and all that. I could take that, right? I could cut out a container, a portion of it, and then put it into TinkerCAD, right? Import it into TinkerCAD, sort of like what I would do like here, for example. I actually like took a container, and based on that container, then I figured out where I could cut out the walls.
Yeah.
Right? And I also figured out, oh, am I doing this thing the right shape, really? And then, I might actually end up rebuilding the container. And as you can see, you can do some pretty cool things like this, what's called a corner casting, which is what sits on here. I don't know, that's definitely not manifold. There's something wrong with that. But so I'm just ending up creating one of my own. And you know how they look, is sort of something like that. I created two circles, two what are they called? Cylinders. One rectangle in the middle. And the way I created this is I put a circle. I should actually be able to see. Actually, pretty cool how you kind of go back to see how
Okay.
I actually created it. It's gonna get to that point. It's not. Didn't take that long. But how I created that shape, right? So I first had a I first took a I first took a sphere, and I was trying, as you can see, quite a bit of trial and error, but I tried to fit it into the um, cube to the point where I
Yeah.
could get the edges lined up right with the side of the sphere, and then I made the sphere a hole, and then I cut it out, but now I didn't need all the other pieces, so I put these things around them and use that, and now I've got this unique shape which I can use to smooth out corners. And I create a bunch of them. I put a cube in there, put that cube on top of it, and just sizing it the way I want, and I use that to cut it out. Now I got a cylinder, two cylinders, fit them in the right place so that it looks like the way the corner casting does, and I'm putting the corner casting there, and that's where we are. Oops.
It's neat.
Pretty much. And let's see, blue. Let's say something you can actually see. Oops, that's something I meant to do. I meant to keep them as holes. Uh, it's actually kind of nice. This very look at how very intuitive they did it. They made it like, if you want to color it, you can color it. If not, you can make it a hole. Yeah, there's no like make it a solid and then make it and then color it.
Yeah.
If it's obviously holes don't have colors, so yeah, it's nice that way. And boom, just like that, you know, and that is still, as you can see, perfectly manifold.
Alright, that's good to know.
Yeah. So that's something I actually will want to show Teo, is because Teo's like, have you ever tried making a shape with have you ever tried cutting a hole in a 3D object? And yeah, the problem with that is, especially if you do it, like say in SketchUp, you will see immediately that it will not be manifold. But with this, because of the way they do things, it's always manifold. Now, I don't know, it might be something that might be important for us with Officio, but just saying that it's good to know that such a thing, um, that the different approaches that we've taken to the different tools that we've seen. So I do want to actually see your tool, and then you go tell me about that a little bit. But let me just do this, show you kind of like how I can go in there, do that, move it a little bit more. Um, that's always a problem with this. See, so I mean, it's not even like limited to um, this particular app. It's just that how do you work in 3D? It's always
Yeah.
it's always like, you're working two axes. I'm using a mouse and keyboard right now, but I really am trying to do things that are inherently. Well, the funny thing is, how does it know? How does it know that that's what I'm trying to do? It's pretty cool though, but it does. that group. Take that. Of course, I don't want to group that. Just click group, and there you go.
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
So yeah, so and it's always auto saving. This is like all online. Um, so now I've got a better corner casting that I can export, you know, and use and reuse. Hope maybe. Then just go in here and say export. Download for 3D printing. STL. Just gonna name it something weird. So I'm gonna find out.
Now, if you don't check that that checkbox, you download the selected shapes.
You download everything
Okay. In one STL file?
in one STL file, which would make it kind of, you know, but I do wanna. The other one that's also really good to just kind of like use just for like, turning things. It's like a universal viewer and an exporter. Is this thing called MeshLab? Wow. Well, huh. Maybe it's not that great. This is supposed to be the oh no, there it is.
Okay. Yeah, I see it.
But the real test now is this. Is not that, right? The real test is checking it out in NetFab. Let's see what NetFab says about the thing that I just made. I called it Funky Biggery. So, see? No problems at all.
Yeah, no problems.
No issues at all because it's completely manifold. It's fine with it. And that concludes my demo of the two tools.
Yeah, that's a lot of material. Thank you, Greg. It's